They schedule meetings late into the afternoon, show up for work coughing and battling a fever, and they often take cell phone calls and texts during staff meetings.
Does this sound familiar to you at all? Unfortunately, this type of behavior has become all too common in the workplace these days. It seems that manners have gone the way of the manual typewriter.
Tina Manusos is an authority on etiquette, and she joins us now from our studio in Toronto. And Tina, what are some of the more common complaints when it comes to poor manners in the workplace?
Well, you mentioned quite a few of them. Talking too loud on their cell phone, or talking loudly on their business line, taking personal calls, coughing, as you mentioned. There's other bodily sounds that people let off, and you know that is an interruption. That is an interruption that affects all of our productivity.
Tina, would it be proper for me to ask you this question? How did you become an authority on etiquette?
Well, of course it's fine.
Is it proper to ask that question of you? Because we're talking etiquette, I don't want to be out of line here.
Yes, about 8 years ago, I wanted, actually it wasn't 8 years ago, 8 years ago I took the courses. I went to the United States and I went to the Washington School of Protocol.
The Washington School of Protocol?
That's pretty
yes.
cool.
Yeah, and I did their course and I got certified, and then I also attended the Etiquette and Leadership of Athens, Georgia, which specializes in working with young people. So I was certified by them, and then I had the pleasure of being certified by Louise Fox of the Etiquette Ladies in Toronto.
I want to ask you about cell phones, because this is something that really bothers me when I'm in a meeting with someone or even just in a social setting, let's say driving, and somebody answers their cell phone. I find it rude.
It's very rude. Cell phones should be turned off when you are out with somebody, whether it's a business call or whether it's a social call, because the whole reason that you are getting together is to give that person 100% of your attention. It's showing them respect. That's what etiquette is. It's the French word, which means ticket, and Louis XV did all this in Versailles, and we need to really come to grips with this cell phone situation, that we can answer our cell phones in a half hour, an hour, when our time or our meeting is over.
I agree, and people feel that it's just absolutely necessary. I have to take this call. I mean, if it is an urgent call, that's fine. Then, you know, you can excuse yourself. But some people just engage in chit-chat and feel that it is their right to ignore you and answer this call.
It's true, and it's unacceptable. We've lost touch with respect. It's a sad thing.
Okay, so Tina, here's a situation. You're working in an office. There are, there's people nearby you. Whether it's an open concept, whatever. And now the food that you choose.
He's talking about onions I had in a salad.
The food that you choose, for example. Is it proper if you bring something that might smell, fish, onions, whatever, to say to your coworkers, would this be okay? Or is this something that you avoid at all costs because it's like having too much cologne on?
I completely agree with you, Mark. I really feel that we have to be very aware that if we're working in a cubicle and we are exposing people to the kinds of foods we want to eat, I mean, if you want to eat onions and liver or anything or something, some Indian food, then, you know, you should go eat it in your car and then, you know, and not disrupt the people that are working around you, because, you know, some people can tolerate that smell, it doesn't disturb them, but other people are very sensitive to those smells.
But wait a second. How about someone, let's say you've got people of Indian descent that you work with, and the smell of a hamburger is as offensive to them as the smell of too much curry might be to someone who's not familiar with it?
Well, I don't believe in eating at your desk anyway. I mean, be aware of who's around you. Get neutral smelling and foods when you are working in an environment that's open, like a cubicle area. If you have a private office, I mean, be aware that if you're alone, that's fine. But if you're going to have that meetings that day, you have to be aware that those odors will linger, and that person that will come in and have a meeting with you will be exposed to that.
I want to ask you a little bit about, speaking of smells, what if you're dealing with somebody who is a foul-smelling employee? What do you do?
Wait a second
No,
now.
it's not. What do you do?
you know, you have to address it because, again, it affects the people surrounding you in the workplace.
But what do you say?
You have to talk to them, and it has to be done in the most sensitive way. You have to arrange a meeting where it's private and it's presented in a wonderful way, complimenting the person on their work ethic and, you know, their achievements and so on. But this is something that, you know, you're telling them because you care, because ultimately it is going to affect their advancement. It may cause bullying within the office, and you don't want that to happen to them. So it can be presented by maybe excusing themselves and maybe going to the washroom to frequently wash, because some people can't help it. Sometimes it's brought on by medications. Sometimes it's just that person's way. So they have to find a way to deal with it because it's so uncomfortable for everybody around them.
Tina, I would assume that most workplaces don't have a policy in place that's been drafted by the the owners of the business or whatever, whereby the employee can go to management and say, look, I've got this problem. I work right next to this person. I like them as a person. I can't confront them in any way, even if I'm trying to be nice, and say, look, the food is too smelly, or you smell, or whatever the case is. Should companies have a policy whereby they have the employee can go to them, and then the owner of the company or the manager can go to that person and say, look, there's been a complaint, or maybe the manager can be the one to soft sell it to the employee that you're doing something that is that's bothering other people.
I think the manager is the best way. Sometimes it's very difficult for employees that are working beside somebody to do it. So yes, I agree that a policy should be in place. HR, usually high management, doesn't want to deal with that. They don't even want to touch it. But a lower manager within the department can do that. But it has to be somebody who can present it in a very sensitive and compassionate way.
Tina Manousis is the expert on etiquette, and I'd like to have you back to show me how to set a table properly and which spoon and fork to use, and we'll do the whole gamut. Will you come back?
I definitely will. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
When we come back, it's a sign that the time has passed.
Yeah, well, we're talking election signs. A lot of them are still up, even though the election, I think, is over, right? So it's time to get rid of them because they're polluting the environment. We'll talk about it next on Square Off.